You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and Jon Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
So welcome to the Mammal Watching podcast with me, Charles Foley in Minneapolis.
And me, Jon Hall in New York. What's been happening, Charles?
Well, I was in Spain this summer and I learned that a herd of 18 European bison, which look very similar to the American bison, had been introduced into Andújar in the Sierra Morena Mountains. Now, the introduction in Spain has caused controversy because many scientists say that the species is non-native. So proponents of the reintroduction justify it by saying that 12,000-year-old cave paintings of bison in Cantabria show that the species used to occur on the Iberian Peninsula. However, others say that those paintings depict the now extinct steppe bison, not the European bison. So it's a non-native species. And all of that got me thinking about whether or not I would count the species if I saw it there. Now, I hadn't thought about this before because I'd always figured that one day I'd go to the Białowieża forest in Poland and see the true wild bison there. However, once I started digging around a little, I realized that even the animals in the Białowieża were introduced. And the story is that bison originally covered much of Central and Northern Europe, but by the early 1900s, they were restricted to about 600 animals in Poland and a few individuals in the Northern Caucasus. And then during the First World War, German troops killed most of the remaining animals in Poland, and only 9 survived, all of which were taken into captivity. And the last European bison in the wild was killed in the Caucasus in 1927, and they were only released in the wild again in the Białowieża forest in Poland in 1952. Now, since then, they've been reintroduced into many European countries with notable populations in Belarus and Russia, but also in places like the Netherlands, which has over 60 animals in semi-domesticated herds. So no population of European bison can be considered truly wild in that it has lived uninterrupted in one place for many generations. But then again, if you look at the American bison population, you realize that Yellowstone is the only place in the lower 48 states where bison were not reintroduced. All the other populations derived from reintroduced individuals.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And all of this, of course, poses interesting questions for the intrepid mammal watcher. And basically, it becomes a question of where do you set your bar? So if you only accept species that have lived uninterrupted in one place for many generations, then animals like the European bison are, in effect, extinct to you. On the other hand, some people, like Alex Meyer, who is one of our guests today, count species that they see in zoos. And the bottom line is no one's right or wrong about this. It's just a matter of personal preference. So I guess for me to count a species like the European bison that was formerly extinct in the wild, it would have to be living in an area within its former range, and it would have to be free range and not confined by fences, and also not be reliant on veterinary care, such as having annual vet checkups, etc. So those populations in Andújar or those in the Netherlands would not count for me, while those in Poland or Romania would. That said, I guess if I drove past a herd in Spain, I would not avert my eyes. But anyway, I'd be interested to hear what other people think about this and what you do or don't count on your mammal lists.
Yeah, that is it is a good question. This has kept me awake at night and probably still does. That probably will keep me awake tonight thinking about this. So if, even a fence, like when is a fence a fence? So there's a fence around Etosha, but all the animals in there look pretty wild, if you ask me. If you have an animal that's been reintroduced to an island in Australia, I mean, that's essentially got a fence around it. It's just the ocean. Mm-hmm. Does that count? For me, at least, I mean, there are different levels of true wildness, and it would be, as you say, something that's living uninterrupted in its native range. It's breeding. It's a self-sustaining population. It's not being fed or helped by people. That's the ultimate. Yeah. But there are many shades of grey between that and the zoo. And I guess for me, ultimately, is it very personal? Does it feel like it was wild? If so, I'm going to count it. So I saw Hirola in Savo East this year, mm-hmm. and that's not their native range, but they felt pretty bloody well to me. So I will have that one and take it happily. My conscience is clear. But, yeah.
Right.
It's a
Yeah,
really
it's
interesting
difficult.
point.
It's difficult. And, I seeing certain populations like an II on an island where it was a small island and they're being fed.
Yeah.
That, to me, it just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I need to go back and see them. Again, truly wild.
And I want to go with you to see
Yeah,
them. Full stop.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And how about you, John? What have you been contemplating?
I've also been looking at thinking about Europe a little bit. In the light of COVID, some of the sort of maybe the silver linings of COVID, if you like. And I see sort of recent trip reports, a resurgence of interest in Europe, and I think it's largely because of COVID and because Europeans, mammal people, have been sort of stayed at home, haven't been able to travel so much, but also European bird watching companies have been and birders have been looking more in Europe for things to do, and they've been exploring mammals. So, a couple of examples are Carlos Bocos, who I traveled to Spain with last year, and he's just submitted another report from the Cantabrian Mountains. He's a top birder, and he was based in Indonesia, but he's got really interested in mammals in the last year or so. He was always interested, but now I would like to think it's taken over. I'm not sure he'd agree, but he's always sending me pictures of shrews and voles and stuff he's seeing in Spain. He's seeing just about everything. So he's really, really good at finding things, as you might expect. Then there's a company called Sakators, like the Falcon, who are based in Hungary. And I imagine they were mainly birding, but they've started these mammal expeditions to Romania. And they did one in the summer. They saw 49 species in a week, which in Europe is extraordinary. And they've been seeing things like European mink, which I thought was impossible to see in the wild now. Romanian hamsters, all sorts of good stuff. So they've been really successful. And they've only just started doing this. So imagine what it's going to be like in 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And then there's also, I suppose, the rise of the twitchable mammals. There was a walrus in Wales in the UK for several weeks in the summer. And so many people I know on Facebook went over there to see that, to twitch that. There's been one in Holland in the last week or so, and a nice report from a guy who went to see that, his first mammal twitch, and how much fun it was. Mm-hmm. So I hope this is the beginning of a wave of more and more birders getting into mammals, at least as a side hobby.
Right. Yeah. Well, I read the report, the Romanian report that you mentioned, and it was just mouth-watering, wasn't it?
And the photos are fantastic. Really great report.
Yeah, really incredible pictures. That's the main thing. It's like, how did they get those? So very impressive indeed. Yeah. Add that one to the list, John.
I will. Actually, I'm going to try and go to Romania in the March to look for links with the same guys. To try and see a Eurasian lynx, my only lynx I haven't seen. So we'll see.
Good for you. Good for you. Look forward to hearing about that.
So we're delighted today to be joined by two mammal watching stars, Alex Meyer and Tomer Ben-Yehuda, also known as the Hard Boys, but more of that later. So Tomer has been a mammal watching stalwart for many years. He's famous for his enthusiasm, his failure to see a caracal, and his colorful language. Charles and I both met Tomer for the first time on our snow leopard trip to the Himalayas back in 2014, I think. And we enjoyed his company, his humor, and his ability to chug shots of the most hideous whiskey in the Northern Hemisphere, which was really very impressive, and at an altitude of about 4,000 meters. Alex, the other half of the Hard Boys, is a relative newcomer to mammal watching, but his trip reports have been coming thick and fast this year. And he lives just down the road from me in Brooklyn. So I have a mammal watching buddy here as a neighbor. Alex also has more lists than Father Christmas's inbox. He tells me he has seen nearly 1,400 mammal species, over 500 of which are in the wild, in 42 countries, 47 US states, and from visiting 271 zoos. So beat that, Tomer. Over to you guys. Perhaps you could start by telling us a bit about yourselves, or each other if you prefer.
Okay, so I'm Tomer Ben-Yehuda. I'm 36 years old. I'm an Israeli-born American. We moved to the States when I was 12, which is also kind of when I started getting to see some more mammals. In Israel, we don't have that many in the city here. And I'm a mechanical engineer at a biomedical startup, which has nothing to do with wildlife, but obviously in my spare time, I like to travel and search for wildlife, particularly mammals. And my close second hobby is riding roller coasters, which ironically, I do have a list of all the roller coasters that I've ridden, but I don't have a list of all the mammals I've seen. Even though mammal watching is clearly the better or my more favorite hobby of the two.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never made a list. I might do it one day.
I've been trying to make him make one, but nothing yet.
Okay, I'll tell you a deep, dark secret, Toma. I don't have a mammal list either.
Dun dun dun.
The truth comes out. And how about you, Alex?
So I'm 38. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York. I was raised in Long Island. I work with mammals, but they're domesticated. So dogs, I do dog walking and dog sitting. And I've kind of always been like a collector of sorts. When I was young, I had a bug collection. And then when I was a little bit older, I randomly had a Snapple bottle collection that was short-lived. And
Wow.
Just for our non-Americans, Snapple is a Swedish tea drink, I believe. Is that correct?
Sure. And they actually used to make soda, and that was the best part of the collection was all the sodas, which they don't even make anymore. So it's a shame I didn't keep them, but
rarities, real rarities. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know about you, John, but I'm starting to feel almost normal over here. So, okay, Toma, back to you. Can you tell us how you got interested in mammals and in mammal watching in general?
Yes. So, okay. So when we moved to the United States when I was 12, we started seeing, we started exploring the Americas more. And we would see, so we would go on these trips with my family, and then we would sometimes spot something like, a badger or a bear, which was really cool. And then in 2002, we went to Costa Rica for the first time as a family, right? Not a mammal watching vacation, but my mom packed this Lonely Planet book, which at the end had this kind of brief guide to the mammals of Costa Rica. And so, of course, I looked through it, and there was jaguars and pumas, and they even had, kinkajous, peccaries, all kinds of cool things. And then anywhere we stayed in all these hotels or lodges or whatever, and anywhere I would go, I would always ask, hey, where can I see, this kinkajou or the jaguar, of course. And everyone was always like, oh yeah, I've lived here for 20 years. I've never seen one. And that was pretty much always the notion that I've gotten about seeing mammals. And so then we went in 2004, we went to Peru and Ecuador, and I was so excited, right? Because we're going to the Amazon, and for sure I'm going to see a jaguar there. And so I even went to Barnes and Nobles and bought this book of the wildlife of Ecuador. I wanna quote to you what this book said about mammals in Ecuador and how you find it. This is the kind of the intro. It says, you might wonder why there's so many more profiles of birds than mammals. So first it says, obviously there's just more birds than mammals in the region. But then it says, another compelling reason not to include more mammals in a book on commonly cited wildlife is that even in regions of South America sporting high levels of mammalian diversity, you will rarely see mammals, especially if you're on a short-term visitor. And then, of course, it goes on to say that, amongst other things, it does kind of give some maybe tips of how to find mammals, but then it says, banish all your thoughts right now of ever encountering El Tigre, the jaguar, which is found regularly now only in isolated regions of the coast and the Orient. So basically, that was like the notion I've always gotten, like, just why are you looking for mammals? You're just not going to see them, stick with the birds, right? And then, so after that, I was set. After I read that, I was like, I'm going to see a jaguar in the wild. I'm going to do that. So I went to Peru in 2007 with just a general like nature tour. And we saw some cool stuff. We saw pygmy marmosets and emperor tamarins and even tapir, which was cool, but no jaguar. And so I went on Google and I Googled where is the best place to see a jaguar in the wild. And then Jon Hall's trip report, came back from 2007. And I was like, holy crap, there's in just 10 days, he saw tapir and giant anteater and jaguar and ocelot, even potentially a margay was mentioned on there. I was like, what? This is like everything I've ever wanted, right? Like when I went to Costa Rica and all these places, this is how I'd imagined it. And so I was, blunt enough to email the owner of the website. I was like, oh, excuse me. Hi, I'm Tomer. I want to see a jaguar. And so he hooked me up with Eduardo Falcones, I think his name is. And, from there on, I went to the Pantanal and I got my jaguar, 2 of them, and giant anteater and, all this other cool stuff. Like I was like ecstatic about all that. And then, so I came back and my parents were like, oh, thank God he saw his jaguar. He can now, relax with all this crazy wildlife stuff. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of a lifestyle that was going to develop from that point on. And so now, and my mom, occasionally every couple of trips, mom was like, are you ever going to grow out of that? I'm like, no, Mom, I have friends that are in their 50s that do it, and it's the most fun thing in the world. And anyway, I think she has accepted me by now for who I am. That's my story.
Great.
I'd forgotten that that was how you found the website. And and it's the quote from the Ecuadorian book is exactly right. It's still the perception from many, many people about mammals. And one of the reasons that mammalwatching.com started was just to sort of say it's not really true. You can see a lot of stuff. You just have to look in the right way. So yeah, good to hear.
Yeah, no, that's great. And how about you, Alex? What was your trajectory into the world of mammal watching like?
Sure. Well, I'll be your third guest in a row to cite the Bronx Zoo. I grew up in the area. My parents brought me there when I was just a 2-year-old, and I just simply loved it. So then anytime we would go somewhere, they'd bring me to the local zoo. And luckily, they were fond of going to Miami and San Diego, which had fantastic zoos with really nice hoof stock collections. And those quickly became my favorite group of mammals. I dabbled in dinosaurs a little bit when I was younger, but you can only go so far with fossils and bones. I needed to see the real things in the flesh. So from hoof mammals, I kind of added on carnivores and primates, and eventually one day I was kind of just like, let's do all mammals. And I stopped there. I didn't keep going with birds and all that. And part of it for me too was photography, which I also, my parents did for me when I was like really too young. I was kind of the director, telling my dad, okay, did you get the male? Did you get the female? Okay, good. We can move on to the next one. And then finally he let me have a disposable camera, and I got this almost perfect photo of an Indian rhino with my thumb directly in the middle of the face of the rhino. So I took some practice, and eventually I've gotten some better equipment. But the photography is really important for me as a record of what I saw. And so if I don't have my camera with me, or if I missed a photo, it's almost like not seeing it for me.
And your photos have been used, in many books and publications, haven't they? Because you've got pictures of some really rare stuff, albeit in zoos sometimes.
Yes, I've been published in the Lynx Handbook of the Mammals of the World set, and BBC Wildlife Magazine, and Walker's Mammals of the World, to name a few.
Wow, very cool.
Great.
So this This zoo thing, I know when we first talked about this, Alex, this came as something of a surprise to me, this idea of having a list of things in captivity, not as much as of a surprise as collecting snuffle bottles. But we'll put that to one side because you have given that up. What gives you the biggest thrill? A new wild species, something you've seen in the zoo but haven't seen out in the forest, or seeing a new life species in a zoo?
How about option C, where I get to see something in the wild that I've never seen in a zoo? It's kind of cheating, but to answer those choices, it's the biggest thrill. I mean, all things equal, you know, some animals are more charismatic than others, but all things being equal, it's seeing an animal for the first time. So if that happens to be in captivity, that is what I'm striving for. Getting photos of animals that I've never photographed before, that maybe not many people have photographed before.
Alex, I don't know how to tell you this, but this was the wrong answer. The answer should have been obviously animals in the wild. I'm kidding.
Let me drill down into this a little bit, because I know in the wild, when like people go out, and certainly for me, and I know with Jon, it's like we see a really rare species of animal, leads to wild celebrations and often lots of fairly rich and fruity language. And I just was thinking about this the other day, and I was having visions of you. It's like walking up to enclosure in a zoo and then dropping to your knees and saying, "Aardvark, hallelujah, I've seen an aardvark." And then it's like 5 minutes later, going sprinting off saying, "Okapi, there's an okapi, I've just seen a okapi." It's like, how does that work for you, right? And have you ever been arrested? Is the corollary to that.
No arrests to date. I'm proud to say. A lot of the time, the rarest animals end up being behind the scenes. So it almost turns into like a secret code. You're talking to the keepers, and you're interested in like, you know, the II, which in London, for instance, the II exhibit was under construction, so they had it closed. And I kind of knew, I knew that they had an II, and I had never seen one at that time. And the keeper took an interest and brought me into the exhibit. And it almost, being inside the exhibit with the animals is kind of a different level. That's not the normal zoo experience. So I haven't seen one in Madagascar yet, but it was still pretty exciting to see an II, which was a lot bigger than I thought it would be, and a lot faster than I thought it would be. Just zooming around this exhibit, it's a really creepy looking animal too. So there was a sort of a creep factor to it also. Kind of shaggy, really dark brown or black lemur from Madagascar with its middle finger on its hand is like 3 times longer than its other fingers, and it uses it to reach into wood to eat insects, and it also taps on the wood with its fingers to hear where it's hollow, to hear where the insects are. But it kind of looks like something out of a nightmare, if you're not a mammal lover, maybe.
Tomer, what do you make of all this zoo watching stuff?
So this is the most fun part, where I get to make fun of Alex's zoo fetish. No, I'm kidding. The reason I give Alex so much crap about it is because, you know, when you're out in the wild and your priority for seeing animals is what's the most rare in zoos, and obviously you got your priority list all messed up, right? Like, it's like, I'm kidding, obviously, but it's like, oh, you know, I don't. Well, actually, Charles took my okapi punch, but it was like, yeah, it's like, oh, you know, I don't need to go see that. Those are common, right? I mean, I've seen plenty of those. Golden cat, come on, man. Golden cat in Uganda. We're gonna see that at the end of the trip, right? So all kidding aside, obviously Alex gets to spend way more kind of intimate encounters with those animals. Like three of us might, a lot of the animals, like a lot of the rarest animals we see, we'll just see like something kind of running across the road, or we don't get like that good of a sighting of it a lot of times. And so obviously Alex gets more intimate encounters, and so he also notices a lot of things about the different species that then also they help them identify them in the wild. Like when we see something like a different type of mongoose or whatever, it's like, oh, based on that whatever feature, that must have been a what do you call it? God damn it.
Marsh mongoose.
The marsh mongoose, right? Yeah, like the yellow spots, or like he noticed, or the size, because he's seen those animals up and close, and so he does notice a lot of things about them.
Yeah, like I've talked to Alex about this, and I have a completely different set of emotions when I see an animal in a zoo or a museum. I mean, I really enjoy it, and I walk around and bore my kids senseless with, oh, seen this, oh, I haven't seen this, and I take to get a long look at it, stuffed or behind bars or whatever. But it's completely different to the unknown. You just don't know if you're going to see it in the wild, and it's that gets it for me. But as you said, Alex, it's not just a question of turning up to the zoo and it's, yes, the gates are open, I read Google correctly, and I can come in. There's often more to it than that. You don't actually know if you're going to get into the enclosure, if the animal will be on display or whatever. So I get there is some mystery in it, but
sure,
not as much, I don't think. So let's move on to some of the wilder encounters. You've traveled a ton this year. I knew Ecuador with me. You were in Kenya. You've been to Brazil for, was it almost a month, I think, and Uganda with Toma, of course. And we'll come back to Uganda in a little while. But what have been some of your highlights?
After Uganda with Tomer, I went to Kenya. And the first day of my Kenya trip, which I begged Tomer to join me, but the first day of the Kenya trip, we saw a serval. It was kind of, it was kind of,
slip it in, didn't you?
it was kind of more exciting. I was kind of doing it, living vicariously for Tomer at that point.
I'm sure he greatly appreciated that.
Really appreciate that.
In Brazil, there's a place called Carassa, which has a monastery where at night the priests there have been feeding the maned wolves, the wild maned wolves. Each night, they're habituated. So if you want to see a maned wolf, this is a great place to do it. Unfortunately, during COVID, they had closed this experience to guests on weekdays. And the way my trip planned out, I was there on a weekday. My guide, he kind of begged with the guy once we got there, but they weren't budging. So we haven't seen any maned wolves in the afternoon. We're pretty dejected, and we're about to drive out, and we see a bunch of cars heading into the monastery area. So my guide's like, I'm going to go follow them. And it turns out that there's a whole special expedition that they've opened up for that night. So my guide decides, all right, we're gonna try our best to see a maned wolf here. So at the front gate, they're kind of like, what are you guys doing back? My guide pats his pockets and he says, you know what? I lost my wallet before. Do you mind if we go look around for it? They kind of roll their eyes and they're like, sure. So he's just buying me time. He's searching around. People join in with flashlights looking for this lost wallet. He's helping old ladies carry their bags to their rooms. And all the while, I'm just waiting for the wolf, hoping it comes early, hoping they put the meat out. Still no wolf. Eventually, the security guard is very upset. He says, you got to get out of here. He's like, oh, I don't know where Alex is. Security guard's like, I just saw him. I'm bringing you to him. You have to leave now. So we're leaving, and we're on the drive out. We're 5 minutes from the exit. And my guide grabs my arm and he says, there on the side of the road, maned wolf. He was so excited. My camera flash malfunctioned the first time, but it ended up working. Got some great shots. And then we got home and we did a night walk and saw a gray slender opossum, which was my favorite animal of the trip and would have never happened if that timing hadn't all worked out perfectly. And one more story from Brazil is there's a tamarin called the Superagui lion tamarin. I had seen these in a primate book when I was growing up. They were only discovered in 1990. And I saw Jon Hall had seen them and had kind of detailed how to get there. There's an island off the coast of Brazil that is it's pretty it's not very populated and it's pretty hard to get to, but I figured it out. And once we got there, the whole kind of neighborhood knows that we're on the lookout for them. And I'm actually staying in the guest house of the family that first helped researchers discover this species. And the first 3 days, we don't see any. We're playing their vocalizations. No luck. And our final afternoon, we're coming back on a boat, and the hostess of the lodge is running out to the boat, yelling something in Portuguese. I'm thinking it's pretty good. So it turns out I'm told that her brother has them in his backyard right now. We must go. So I start running, and my guide is like, no, come on the boat. The boat's faster. So we take the boat. We're running on the beach. My stuff starts falling out of my bag. Got to pick it up. We get to the house. There's no tamarins, but the owner of the house says, just go into the forest a little bit. They should still be there. So 10 feet into the forest, we start playing the vocalizations. They come right up to us, 15 feet away. Fantastic. It was the final species of lion tamarin that I hadn't seen, at least in captivity.
It's a fantastic story, and I love that island. It's just such a special place. It's in some ways it's the remotest place I've ever been, and that no one goes there. There are no visitors, or at least there weren't 2 years ago. So yeah, I'm so glad you saw them. It's a great story.
And how about you, Tomer? You've also done a huge amount of traveling, including with John and I. Can you tell us about some of your favorite mammal sightings?
Of course, the snow leopard. I mean, to me, that was like such a kind of a symbol of rare wildlife, and it's something that maybe even just a few years earlier was something that was almost impossible to see in the wild. So when we were all standing there on the mountain, and just seeing that snow leopard so far across, across the valley, I was so excited. I was like, holy shit, this is real, I'm really seeing this animal that I've been wanting to see for so long. So that was really a magical moment for me. And then, so in the Central African Republic, it was the sixth night out of 9 nights that we were there. And I was, we got to see some pretty cool stuff, including the black-bellied pangolin, which is another really good one. But we knew obviously that we were going to see that one because it's trackable, right? And we didn't get to see the white pangolin. And as we're walking through the forest, and we had to hire a guide too because my flashlight went out, and so we hired one of the Ba'aka guys to lead us to the forest, and he had really great eyes. But in my head, I was already like kind of summing up the trip, like, oh, we got to see really cool stuff. Well, people expect to see pangolins, like what the white-bellied pangolins, because there's been some reports that had them, but they're really tough. And I was already like making, some, not excuses, but like kind of planning on my report, how I'm going to explain not having seen that animal, which was definitely my number one. Like the reason I went to the Central African Republic was to see pangolins for sure, because I thought there was a good chance. And then, so yeah, night 6 out of 9, already have more than halfway through the trip, and Luke, who was with me, heard some rustling in the leaves, and apparently that's how you find white-bellied pangolins is by listening to this like leaf rustling next to the trail. And but you always hear leaf rustling, right? Like all these little or some lizards or whatever that kind of run away as you walk by. So he said, "Oh, look, there's something." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe another lizard or whatever." And he's like, and I really didn't. Apparently he had already realized what it was, but I just kind of was like, okay. And then our guide turns around and he saw it. He like jumps into the bush. Oh my God, it's a white-bellied pangolin. Like I probably cursed more times during that encounter than during our entire Indian Ladakh trip. I was like,
surely not. That's not possible.
I was like, holy, oh my God, oh my! Like I was literally shaking when we saw that, because I've been wanting to see that for so long. I mean, I've been like dreaming of the moment when I would see a pangolin in the wild. And we did see the black-bellied one. I shouldn't take away from that, because it's actually the better looking of the two species. But this one was a surprise. It was by chance, and it wasn't like a guarantee. I was, oh man, we went back, and I also, interestingly, or I guess funny stories, before earlier that night, after going, we went on every night, didn't see the pangolin, and we started a beer during dinner, and I was like, let's leave the second half of the beer for our celebration after we see a pangolin. And so we left half of the beer in the cooler in the fridge, and then we came back and we got our second half of the celebratory beer. I was just elated, really, like when we saw it.
That's
Fantastic.
great.
It's a hard one to see for sure. Much harder than a clouded leopard, really.
Yeah,
in terms of numbers of people. I've never seen one.
Right.
Still need to go back though for the clouded leopard.
Fair enough. So, what about lowlights? You've given us some of the highlights. I know that you've occasionally shown up in places without the proper gear. I still think you have my gloves, don't you? That lent you in the Himalayas.
I do, and
you ended up in the Himalayas without any proper boots, didn't you? What else have you forgotten?
I didn't think that one through. I still have your gloves. Still, I will definitely give them to you next time.
Great.
I guess the notorious situation, the low light, I would say, and of course John took a good part in it, as we were spinning out of control in just spinning aimlessly in a canoe in the stream of Waikambas, trying to kind of go towards an eye shine, which with the first it was the smoke from the little boat, you couldn't see anything, and then we gave one of the, I guess it was it a ranger that they gave a pedal to, John?
Yeah, I think so.
It was like, okay, go this way. There's some eye shine on alongside the river, and he's like, yeah, sure. And then he just starts spinning in circles, like not going towards the eye shine, obviously. And I was so frustrated because in my head we just missed the Sumatran tiger, obviously, or something to that extent. So I was like, oh my God. But when you look back at it, obviously it's really funny stuff. And
was that the same night that the driver fell asleep at the wheel as we were driving back and drove the car off into a sort of storm drain?
Yeah.
And we got stranded for now.
Got us in an accident in the middle of our mammal watching trip. Yeah, definitely. It was I would say there was a low light, but I was still, in retrospect, obviously still a really great place to visit. It was really fun, and hanging out with John and Jean-Michel, we had lots of fun and like good times, and we did see some cool mammals. We saw the Pentel tree shrew and the otter civet there and stuff like that. So it was cool, but particularly a few moments there, I was like, oh my God, what are we doing?
And Alex, what about yourself? What things haven't gone so well for you over the years?
I was walking along a trail along the Atlantic coast in Bahia, Brazil, at night, hoping to see one of their endemic porcupine species. And there's something in the tree, porcupine size, porcupine behavior, but it's far away. So In order to get closer, we kind of walk up to the edge of this cliff, over a downed tree, on the roots of the downed tree, which is not very stable footing, where feet are falling between the roots. And I get a record shot, and it's definitely a porcupine. It's definitely a Bahia porcupine. And I want to get a better shot. I want to wait and get a better shot. It's hiding behind the branches right now, but we have the thermal imager, so we can sit there in total darkness, total silence, and just wait to see it move out in the open and then get some photos. So we waited for 75 minutes, and the spot we chose happened to be a spot that biting ants also chose as their home. And they start biting my ankle. I'm thinking, this isn't so bad. And they work their way up my leg. And the pain gets more and more intense as they are torturously working their way up my legs. But I toughed it through, and I waited, and that porcupine came out from the branches and came out into an open branch, and it was totally worth it.
I mean, anytime biting insects get near genitals, there are problems waiting to happen. Were you not concerned?
No. It turns out my fertility was not affected, and I know this because my partner Anne and I are actually expecting.
Oh, Alex. Congratulations, man.
Well done.
Thank you.
My goodness. This is like a baby reveal. I'm never watching podcasts.
It is. Oh my God. And all thanks to the ants, because if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't have to test it, right? I mean,
I think we're going to leave this there. Yeah. Well, that Uganda trip, that was, you wrote up trip reports, and that was a great trip. That really helped, I think, put Uganda on the map this year. And can you guys describe some of your favorite moments from that trip?
Sure, I'll take this. So as I was just kind of saying, there were some family lifer opportunities in Uganda for me. And probably the first day when I meet Tomer in Uganda, and we're talking about what we might see. And I'm kind of like, all right, so I know you've seen these things that are flying squirrels from Africa. They're called anomalures. And I say to Tomer, I know you've seen anomalures already on some of your trips, but I've never seen one. So what do you think our chances are? And very confidently, Tomer's just like, don't worry, I'll find you an anomalure. I'm like, how does this guy know he's going to find one? And sure enough, like, my favorite day of the trip is at Semliki National Park. We spent like 15 hours in the park seeing Debraza monkeys in the morning and dense monkeys in the afternoon and Semliki red colobus. And then we stay through the night, and there's a band of us, and it just had such great camaraderie. We found a turtle on its back at one point that we, kind of rescued. I was encouraging everyone to kind of pick up garbage when they saw it. And it really felt like the nature gave back. So we started seeing a bunch of galagos at night. We're using our thermals, using flashlights. And we come across this one animal in a tree, and we're looking at it, and we're kind of think it's a galago. And then it jumps like across a couple trees to a tree farther away. And I kind of thought, wow, that kind of felt like a glide. And I took a picture of it. Now it's totally in the open on the tree stump, tree trunk. I take a picture of it and zoom in on the picture and show Tomer, and he goes, yeah, that's an anomalure. And that was my cursing moment. I was so excited. I was jumping up and down. The family lifer thing was kind of new for me. And this was this was my first family lifer since I had been keeping track of them. So thank you again, Tomer. That was fantastic.
You're welcome, buddy. Anytime.
What about you,
that was a
Tomer?
good moment. See, for me, I'm a simple man, right? We had been wanting to see the spot-necked otter because I hadn't seen those before, and so in Kibale actually, we were staking out this small stream in search of the much rarer giant otter shrew, we were just staking. We stuck it out. We were like staking it out a couple times, even at night, and we didn't really see much. And then one afternoon we went straight there. We waited there for an hour. I was like, okay, the hour is up. Well, let's go. We got dinner. We need to head back to dinner. And Alex is like, oh, come on, let's just wait for like a few more minutes just to see. I'm like, okay, we've been spending, however many minutes altogether that we've spent here, but sure, let's wait a couple more. And then down the stream comes an otter, and at first I actually thought it was the giant otter shrew because that's what we had been hoping to see. But then Alex is like, no, it's a regular otter. I'm like, there's no regular otter, it's a spot-necked otter. This is the one thing we wanted to see this whole. And then actually, at first we weren't sure, but it actually put up a good show. It went up on some rocks, turned around, and then went back in the water. So we got some good, even video footage and pictures of it. So,
okay, so I have to ask you, what was the deal with the name the Hard Boys? Who came up with that?
So I'll take a stab at that. So first of all, we don't know the real answer, but actually, just judging Alex's reaction when he saw the Lord Derby's anomaly, I think I know why they named us the Hard Boys based on just that moment. That was my very inappropriate answer.
Harriet did have a smile and a twinkle in her eye when she talked about this. We call them the Hard Boys. And she just looked at me and raised her eyebrows. Yeah.
And so just finally, what are your next targets for both of you?
Yeah, so I guess it really depends on what opens up with COVID. But I'm still, so if caracal and serval's not embarrassing enough, still haven't seen a tiger, so that should be very high up on my list, as well as a polar bear. I know they're not the rare or hardest things to see, but definitely I think, and also the spectacle bear and the tapir in Ecuador, I definitely need to see those soon.
Yeah, how about you, Alex?
So I always have a top 5 that's constantly changing. If I see something, I take it off and put something else on the list. Javan rhino has been number 1 for a while, and I was booked on a tour for June 2020 with Martin Royal safaris, and of course COVID has delayed that trip. So we'll see what the timing of that is. With the baby is due in April, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know, but then beaked whales would be also high on my list. It's on my top 5, and I already went on a birding trip trying to see them off of Hatteras, North Carolina. We didn't see any that trip, but North Carolina is close enough. I'll be back. I'll be looking for them again.
Yeah. Wow. Well, those sound like honorable quests, in my opinion. So good luck to you on those.
Well, guys, the Hard Boys, you've done yourselves proud. Thank you so much. It's always fun talking to each of you, and talking you together is an additional treat. Tomer, in particular, like, respect for keeping the language in control. I'm impressed, but I don't know if it's being on the podcast or it's being married that's done this to you. But either way, I'm impressed with your new vocabulary.
Thank you. It's probably more of the podcast than anything else.
That's a relief.
Yes. Yeah, it's thank you so much, guys. That was very interesting, and best of luck in your future mammal watching endeavors.
Thank you both.
Thank
It's
you.
been really an honor. You guys know I love mammal watching, so I love that you guys invite us. And Alex, Jesus, congratulations, man. You didn't even tell me about it. We just talked the other day. Congratulations, man.
I was saving it for the podcast. Thank you, Tomer.
Well done. Well done.
You've been listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and Jon Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.